You're listening to episode number 7 of the Play Your Position podcast.
Welcome to the Play Your Position podcast, where your story matters and we make it count. Here's your host, Mary Lou Kaser. Let's get started.
Hello, everyone. I am excited to introduce my guest today, Chad Brown. Chad, are you ready for kickoff?
Yes, I am.
Great. Chad is the creative director of Soul River Runs Deep, a company whose mission includes inspiring the minds of urban youth through its fly fishing inspired apparel and brand. Soul River's goal is to use fashion, art, and design to bridge the gap and connect the urban world to the outdoors. Chad is also a photographer, designer, filmmaker, and brand strategist for companies all over the world. Chad, welcome to the show, and why don't we just start off with you telling us more about the position you play exceptionally well right now and when you first knew that you were going to play this position.
Coming from the background of being a veteran and soldier fighting PTSD and dealing with my issues and coming out of that, got me to a place where I found my healing on the water, and it was through fly fishing. Combining my background as a creative and designer, bringing two worlds together basically and use them as a vehicle to help inspire inner city youth and also veterans into the outdoors by creating a urban fashion lifestyle apparel brand that has a cool factor of attraction that acts as a bridge into the outdoors.
Given your background as a veteran, you served our country and came back to live your civilian life, decided that this creativity that is inside of you was going to be at the heart of whatever you did. Why don't you share how this concept of Soul River Runs Deep came about?
The concept of Soul River came about as I found myself on the water when I was fighting my PTSD. As soon as I was on the water fly fishing, I connected to, basically I hooked it on the fish, and it brought joy, it brought happiness, and it made me smile, and it seemed like it overpowered the medication that I was taking, and that was something that I felt that made me feel alive. And so that little moment right there led me into a pursuit of fly fishing more and more and more because I wanted to capture that moment over and over because it made me feel so good in the moment, alive on the water. Soul River basically comes from the whole tagline, runs deep. It runs deep within all of us. It's soulful. The river, the water is something that we can connect on many different levels, all walks of life. And whatever you're struggling or going through, etc., the river accepts you as who you are, basically. And that's really kind of like the gut of what Soul River Runs Deep is about, basically. Tying that into a brand, into a lifestyle brand that acts also as a beacon call back into our communities, basically. So the brand has a heartbeat, a human heartbeat. What I sell and make, half of that goes back to the community, to where it puts me in a position to connect to inner city youth and act as a bridge to get them into the outdoors and basically get away from the television.
Boy, is that not something that we need more of. So thank you so much for having that desire to reach into our communities and say, listen, there's this whole world out here and it's magical and it's powerful. And if you can get on a river like I did and experience that, it could change your life.
Absolutely. It's pretty amazing, when you see that life change, and especially when you see an inner city kid or even a veteran, because a veteran, they are fighting their PTSD, and the kids, they have their own version of PTSD. But when you see a kid in the outdoors, especially when they have never even been close to a river or never seen a deer, it's pretty magical. And when you see that happen right in front of you.
How long, Chad, have you been doing this work with inner city youth and the veterans groups that you're affiliated with and bringing them into these places where they can experience the great outdoors?
I've been doing this work for around 2 years now. I basically have been able to create partnerships with government agencies and Department of Fish and Wildlife and the Forestry Wildlife of Tualatin River Valley actually came in as a partner as well. And a couple of the partners came to a place that helped me move forward in continuing this type of work.
Who has been an instrumental coach or mentor for you and influenced you to play your position right now? Who's guided you on this journey?
I had a couple mentors in my life, and from the creative end, I've been mentored by Mr. Russell Simmons of Fat Farm, and also some of his staff members. And when I was a young designer in New York, I watched how they worked and how they were able to make things happen. When you're stressed out, it was yoga. Actually, Mr. Russell Simmons will speak about and talk about, how yoga can kind of keep you balanced. From time to time, I also had a couple mentors that was in the spiritual realm. They weren't not a pastor, just people that were very spiritual that would guide me and also one of my biggest fans and also mentors, my mother and my father. They have been 100% helped me from art school, design school, even to the day when I came out of the military into what I'm doing now. And so I tend to keep kind of like a conglomerate of at least 7 to 8 type of mentors behind me in many different areas of my life or what I'm trying to accomplish.
Well, I think that's so smart because we, as entrepreneurs, we as community members, can't do it by ourselves. And when you're a creative person like you are, Chad, and so much of your work is internal, where you spend time designing and conceptualizing and thinking about things, and then taking that into the physical world when you're leading groups or you're meeting with your advisors or you're meeting with your partners, knowing that there are people that you can draw on that have your back, so to speak, like your parents, like Mr. Russell Simmons and some of the other folks that have been instrumental. It cannot be emphasized enough at how important that is. And especially when we find ourselves during this game of life on the field and we're trying to move our agendas forward. We're trying to get closer to achieving our dreams, our visions, and our goals. We all know, like in the game of football, that things don't always go according to plan, do they? So why don't you share a time with listeners today about when you found yourself playing out of position, maybe you were sacked or intercepted or you got benched?
Yeah, sure. When I was in the design world, I was more of acting as a creative director and doing a lot of consulting with various companies. I had this one experience where it was an experience and also an awesome opportunity. Through a friend, led me to a client overseas in Hong Kong. They were looking for someone to come in and basically help rebrand their whole company. And they're one of the biggest, largest companies in Asia, And so here I am, a small guy, small business, basically, as a consultant going up against a couple agencies in Asia. They granted me that opportunity and they gave me a week to turn around in the concept and they flew me out there and I pitched, over in Hong Kong. It was a really interesting experience because number one, I can't speak the language. It was a little bit cumbersome with that. As I pitched, I stopped it because I realized I was actually going up against some pretty big powerhouses. I stopped my pitch in midstream, right in front of in the conference room, and they looked at me a little funny because that's when I realized that, I went way over my head and I just don't think I can do it anymore. But I didn't tell them that, but that's what I was thinking in my head. I stopped and I said, this is who I am. This is what I can do. And this is, if you was to select me to do this, then this is the type of services I can provide. And I can't do what a corporate conglomerate of an ad agency out of New York can do. Granted, I got the same skill set, but I can't do that because I don't have that manpower. And I was real with them. I didn't paint the picture or whatever like that. But since I stopped it, they didn't want to proceed through that. They actually granted me the job and the project, basically, because the fact that I basically came straight and became transparent and became honest right then and there. And I shared with them what I can do. And that was one of the things I learned is if that opportunity ever happens, what I would do different was to be more transparent and understand what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses, how far I can go, and then also keep a team with me just because I have a couple other jobs here happening that acquires various skill sets. And that doesn't mean I have to carry them all. I just need to line myself up with the right people that's going to help me and guide me through that process and help me be able to come out as a winner at the end. One of the things that I did not do when I started, I kept it all to myself. I went through like a spear, and it weakened me at the point to where I basically dropped on my knees and said, hey, this is who I am. I need to be more transparent. Sometimes, you win, sometimes you don't. But the most important thing is to be very transparent and understand your strengths and your skill set and know the fact that you just can't wear all the hats. It's best to wear the right hats that's going to make you stronger and make you stand out as much more than the rest, even if you do fail or you do win.
Wow, Chad, you just said so many amazing points that I'm sitting here, my brain is really swirling. I want to just touch on a couple of the ones that really stood out to me. The first one was this experience in Hong Kong brought you to your knees. And I can't emphasize enough how at the time it may have been so scary, or when we're faced with a challenge or we get into something and realize we're over our heads and it brings us to our knees. That is a time of true leadership at play. And you did the right thing by owning up to the fact that, listen, I'm a one-man show here, folks. I don't have a team of 35 people behind me. And yet, because of the honesty and integrity you showed, you still got the contract. So I think that's a really powerful lesson to learn. And I also think one of the things that you said that really stood out is when we're a small business, when we are our business, we have to wear many hats. But there does come a time when you realize, like any team, you can't win a game by yourself. It just isn't possible. Quarterback can't be the only person. There is no game if there's just the quarterback. And you were out there on the field and you pivoted. You realized the play isn't working, and you took it upon yourself to go a different direction, and it worked out, and that's awesome. Sometimes it doesn't, though, and accepting the failure, accepting the fact that, not every play that we put out there is going to be a win is absolutely okay. Because next time you learn and you do it differently, which is exactly what you did.
Yes, absolutely.
The world has changed really fast, as we all know, which has affected the way we play our positions and the way we play our games in our businesses. What specific shifts or changes have challenged you, Chad, and how have you overcome those challenges to keep your ball moving forward towards the end zone?
Some of the things that I do now is number one is I really, really work very hard to try to create good partnerships and good, solid, sound standing type of partnerships, because that me being small and doing what I need to do, I need to align myself with the right people, and having the right partners within my line will help me be able to move forward. And that won't water me down. That won't water my company down, anything. That will just only make me stronger. And everybody can have a piece of what's happening. If that's the pie in front of me, everybody can have a piece of that. That's one of the biggest things that I really cherish the most, is being able to create the right partnerships and bridging the gaps and finding various partners that can help me with my weakness to moving forward and what I'm trying to accomplish with my company.
Could you give an example of a specific partner that's helped you achieve what you just said?
When I'm wanting to try to do an expedition trip, say like on the Deschutes River here in Oregon for 4 days straight, and I want to take 14 kids, well, I got to find the gear. I have to come up with the money to make this happen where it's zero cost for kids and also veterans. And so what I do is I open the gates up and I write a proposal grant to various partners, and I make the phone calls with various partners and say, listen, can you help me out either financially or product wise that will help me be able to make this trip happen? Some partners are able to give product basically, and then some partners are able to do financial, they help me out. And then part of that is my model with Soul River is what I sell. My model works is what I sell in the forefront. Half of that money goes into the give back of community. So I kind of have that dual module happening to where it gives back. And so it's a mixture of partners. And so when I work everything all together, I'm able to create these bridges financially and product wise to help with gear to make this happen and to make a grand experience for youth and vets.
What you just said is another great lesson that there are a lot of organizations who are not only willing but able to partner with small businesses when you make it very clear what you're trying to achieve and how it benefits a specific community. And you also touched on something that I really like, and that is the whole monetization piece where you have a physical product that you sell, your clothing line, and some of the other products that you have that allows you to fund the more philanthropic arm of your overall vision, because Soul River Runs Deep really is grounded in that sense of giving back. You have your work as a designer that helps fund your life, but you've got this piece that you've built that's very powerful and almost has taken on a life of its own. And there's ways to reach out and fund that part so it's not just all coming out of your pocket, because in business we have to be able to support ourselves, right? And we're in a time now where I see a lot more small business owners and entrepreneurs who really want to give back. They want to have a giving section of their business, and finding a way to balance that and still be profitable so you can pay your bills. It's not necessarily straightforward. So thank you for sharing that little process that you go through, because I think it's more available than people realize.
Absolutely. It really is. And it's just a matter of doing a self-assessment and looking at, where you're at and what you're trying to do and what kind of partners that you can align yourself. With me, one of the biggest things that helps me, and I'm kind of like, I guess I'm redefining a business model here, because I know that certain people aren't always with a silver spoon in their mouth and they got everything. And there's certain people that has to basically go through the process, ups and downs, et cetera, and try to get this. And sometimes they can't get it. Where I'm getting at is that when, like a nonprofit, they have to apply for grants all the time. Sometimes they win, sometimes they don't. With me on the Give Back with Soul River, the business model works is like, okay, I have a lifestyle brand. My brand I'm going to create has a heartbeat. So what I sell, basically, it does sustain my company to what I need to do. But at the same time, I have that control and I have the ability to be able to take either 20 to 25% of my sales into a community and be able to give back and be able to make it zero cost for inner city kids by bridging the gaps with other partners in the outdoors or other partners from a financial background to help with that give back and getting inner city kids invest into the outdoors. It's a lifestyle brand. It's a business model. It's a dual business model that does a dual give back at the same time.
Yeah, and it's a great model. It's a great model. And I see more and more companies leaning in that direction, because we all are aware of how much need is in the communities around us and how what we do can serve those needs. So given that, Chad, I think it's time that we take the ball into the end zone and score a touchdown.
Yes.
So you are in the red zone and there are less than 30 seconds left on the clock. You're down 4 points. It's third down and it is now or never. Tell a story about a time when you overcame this obstacle and ran the ball into the end zone for a touchdown that won the game for you.
My first step as a designer when I was in New York, started consulting. I had an opportunity to work for Platform, Mr. Russell Simmons. He gave me an opportunity to come up with 3 concepts within 4 days, basically, to come to his office. I worked with the copywriter. I came to an office with 35 concepts. I was hungry. I was actually behind on 6 months of rent, and I didn't know what was going to happen. And so when I walked to his office, I wowed him with that much concepts. I showed him what I can do, and he gave me the opportunity, and he granted me an opportunity to spearhead his entire Platform account as a designer. I was able to go back and pay all my 6 months of rent and move forward and do what I need to do. And so, so I was hungry. So perseverance is what led me, and stepping out on my faith and believing in myself and doing what I need to do, that I knew that I could bring it to the table. And that was my one shot, and I owned it.
I love it. I love that phrase, I owned it. And that is a great story, Chad, because Sometimes when we're hungriest is when we get our biggest breaks. And when we become more comfortable, we're not searching for those opportunities. We don't see them as readily. But when you've got the wolves at your door, like you did.
Exactly.
Again, it's that 30 seconds on the clock. It's now or never. You're going to pass that ball and get it to your receiver, and stepping out in faith. So that's great. As we come towards the end here, why don't you share 1 to 3 key offensive strategies straight out of the Chad Brown playbook that listeners could implement in their businesses and lives to move the ball into the end zone for themselves?
Really believe in yourself. It's a matter of stepping out on your faith and practice that understanding that it's dark and it's going to be okay. And when you can accept that fear and move forward, that's when you can start putting more things into place and doing what you need to do. Taking advantage of the internet, that's a big plus. Don't be scared to be your own PR person. You have to do your PR. You have to be able to raise the bar as high as you can when you're connecting and with new customers, or you're trying to launch a new brand. Don't shortchange yourself on your marketing piece. All your marketing should just be just as much higher as the time you put in on your business plan, because that's much more important, because only a few people will see your business plan, but everybody or your customer base is going to see your marketing. And so you never ever want to half step with your marketing, but you got to make sure your package is just as tight as possible as your business model or your business plan when you are stepping out as an entrepreneur.
The whole PR piece is huge, and the internet gives us that ability. The way even 5 years ago, the internet was around, but it's changed so much. So thank you for that. And for everybody listening today, everything that Chad has shared with us, all these amazing pieces of wisdom and insight, can be found in the show notes over at maryloukaser.com/Chad Brown. And Chad, what is the best way for listeners to connect with you? Where can we find you online?
You can go to my website, which is www.soulriverrunsdeep.com. You can always email me. My email is available on the website as well, which is my first name's Chad at soulriverrunsdeep.com. I am always answering emails. And I'm wide open just email me regardless, but you can find everything on my website though.
Fantastic. And I encourage listeners to connect with Chad, because he has got, as you can tell from what he shared today, there are some amazing stories and opportunities to learn more about philanthropy and your business, and connecting a community with your passion and purpose. And also just check out the great merchandise that he has designed and has made available. So, Chad, I want to thank you for giving your time to Team Play Your Position today, and I wish you the best as you move forward, and I look forward to connecting with you at a future time.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate it, your time.
And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Play Your Position podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's guest as much as I did, and remember, you can find the show notes from today's episode over at maryloukaser.com/podcast. I would also so appreciate it if you would take a few minutes to leave me a quick 5-star review on iTunes so more people can find this program and benefit from the wisdom my guests share. I look forward to seeing you on future episodes, and in the meantime, it's a great day to get out there and play your position.
Thanks for listening to the Play Your Position podcast, where your story matters and we make it count at maryloukaser.com.